Greetings out there. So I wanted to make a video, a little tutorial about an introduction to lattice notation, which is a means of mapping harmonic spaces. And I would argue is a much more viable and truer way to understand harmony and to have a deeper sense of harmony, right? And oh my goodness, what are we talking about? Oh God. Oh my. Okay, there we go. Guitar's down. What are we talking about when we're talking about harmony? We're talking about the agreement between tones and the relationship between tones, right? So there's always, well, let's start with an originating tone, or the single tone that's starting all of this, right? There it is. Look at that beautiful blue dot. That tone is starting everything. And let's think of it as E, because I think a lot of guitar players are looking at this, and E is a very happy key on the guitar. And so there's our E, right? Now I've got a question for y'all. What in the hell is an octave? What is an octave? Have you ever asked yourself this question? Like, what really is an octave? Is it simply, 8 letters away in the musical alphabet, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E? Is that what it is? Well, what if you're in a pentatonic scale, or a heptatonic scale, or what if you're in an 11-tone scale, right? Is it still an octave? The language is really, that languaging is a disservice to what an octave actually is. It has a lot less to do with 8 and more to do with 2. For instance, if I take my E string, right, and I divide the string perfectly in half, which would be at the 12th fret, and I don't have to fret it, I'm going to evoke the harmonic, I get an octave of my low E string. Now what in the hell does that have to do with 8? What does dividing by 2 have to do with 8? Something, but not everything, not too much. What is happening, physically speaking, is this wavelength is beginning to move twice as fast. That's what's actually happening. That's what an octave is. If I take this E string and I say, hey, waveform, why don't you move twice as fast? And then I say, hey, why doesn't this waveform move twice as fast? And say, why doesn't this waveform move twice as fast? Where are you? There it is. Right? Oh. So, is it clear that an octave is really a power of 2? An octave is a doubling or a dividing by 2 of the frequency. If the wave is moving this fast, and I want its octave, it's going to move this fast. If I want a wave moving, if I want the octave of this, it's going to move this fast. Wait, is that right? Twice as fast. Right, so we're dealing with a doubling of frequency. I feel like that's important to understand. It is important to understand that an octave has less to do with being 8 tones away, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, which is a convenient nomenclature, but is all the more, it's just not as true as a doubling of frequency. That's what we're dealing with, right? So look, I wanted to introduce, well, that dot represents E and all its doubling of frequencies, right? If you're still with me, thank you. Now, there are some, this is what I like to call the sort of the cardinal directions of harmony, right? So after a doubling of frequency, oh, things are falling apart. After a doubling of frequency, what's the next prime number? 3. So what happens if we triple the frequency? On our little lattice notation grid, we're going to have that represent a tripling of frequency. And here's our new tone. Any idea what happens when you take a frequency and triple it? What happens when you take a waveform and make it move 3 times as fast? Well, we can use our guitar to figure that out. If we take our low E string, and this time, instead of dividing the string in half, I'm going to divide it in thirds. And where is that on the neck? That is right over the 7th fret. And what tone do I get there? Any ideas? That's where we get our B, or our perfect fifth. All right, now once again, a sort of mishap in the nomenclature. What is a fifth? Is it just the 5th degree of the scale? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, E, F, G, A, B, E, F, G, A, B. Sort of, yeah, it is. But what if I'm in an arpeggio or in a pentatonic scale? That's the 4th tone of the scale, but we're still going to call it a 5th. Anyway, what is it most truly? It's most truly a tripling of frequency. So here's my 1, here's my times 3. Okay? Here's my 1 times 2 times 3. Times 3 times 2 times 1. Okay? So that, we're moving up. We're moving up in a tripling of frequency. I need a guitar holder. There we go, that'll work. Right? And what's the 5th of E? Is B, right? So we've got you could say east. We've got our first cardinal direction. Now for our next cardinal direction, ba-boom. Oh boy, don't fall on me now. Here we go. For our next cardinal direction. Well, the question is, what's the next prime number? The next prime number is 5, right? Every new prime number is a whole different universe of sound, okay? 2 is not 3, 3 is not 5, 5 is not 7, 7 is not 11, okay? So we're dealing with the first first 3 primes rather. Prime of 2, prime of 3, prime of 5. Now if I take this waveform and I say, hey, move 5 times as fast, go from this to 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1. 1. I'm taking one waveform and I want it to move 5 times as fast. That's going to be right over the 4th fret. Okay, that harmonic. Alright, so we're taking our low E, we're taking this waveform and we're saying, hey, move 5 times as fast. Okay, so that's 1 times 2 times 3 times 4 times 5. Alright, and that's our major third. Okay, that's our major third. And what's the major third of E? It's G sharp. Okay, ba-ba-boom, ba-ba-boom. Okay, we got our 2 cardinal directions. Now this is funny, remember, when we go this direction, we're multiplying by 3. And what do we get? We get a 5th. When we go this direction, we're multiplying by 5. And what do we get? We get a major third. Okay? So we're starting to think more in terms of multiplication, not addition, not 3 tones away, right? A 5th is not just 5 tones away. A 5th is more accurately a tripling of the frequency. Okay? And a major third is more truly a quintupling of the frequency. Okay, the dimension of 3 triple nature, the dimension of quintuple nature. Okay, so we've got our 2 cardinal directions, but we can go to the west and go south. Okay, and what's that going to do? Well, think of this as multiplying, but then we got to think what tone, if multiplied by 3, would equate to E? What tone, if multiplied by 3, would equate to E? Right? Boom, boom, boom. A much simpler way of saying that is, what in the hell is E the 5th of? Or another way of saying that is, what in the hell is the 4th of E? Okay? And the answer to that is A. Okay? Now stay with me if I haven't lost you yet. Okay? So this is an interesting thing. Say if we keep dividing finding all those harmonics on the E string, we're not going to find A. A is not hiding in this harmonic series. Well, I've heard differing things. I mean, I've heard differing things about that, but my understanding is no, A does not exist in the harmonic series of E. I would love to hear some thoughts on that, how true that is to other people. Anyway, but E exists in the harmonic series of A. In fact, if I take the waveform of A and I say, hey, waveform, move 3 times as fast. Go from this to this. What am I going to get? I'm going to get E, right? I'm getting E. So if I take the frequency of A and I say, hey, move 3 times as fast, I get E. Now, we're thinking in terms of E as the focus or the center of gravity in terms of our harmony, right? So we've got 3 tones now, right? We've got our tonic, our E, we've got our B, we got our G sharp, we got our A, we got one more direction to go. And our next direction to go is to ask, what is E the quintuple? What is E the major third of? Or if I took a frequency and I quintupled it and got E, what tone would that have to be? A much simpler way of saying this is, what is E the major third of? Or, yeah, what is E the major third of? Or, what is the minor sixth of E? And it is, hold on tight, ba-ba-ba-boom, ba-ba-ba-boom. Is that visible? Oh my gosh, this thing is in the way. Get out of the way. It's C, okay? C is, notice, if I take C, right, if I have a frequency of C, say I had a low C string, right, and I wanted to evoke E, I would have to hit this harmonic, just above the 4th fret. I would have to take the frequency of C and quintuple it, and I would get E, right? So when we're going this direction, we're multiplying by 3. Oh, no. We're multiplying by 3. We're multiplying by 5. Now, when we go this direction, we're dividing by 5. We're dividing by 3. Okay? Now, these, I would say, are the 4 cardinal directions of harmony that the vast majority of us are going to be dealing with. Okay? And we may not even know it. This may seem sort of obtuse and I don't know, maybe just new, right? I think we're so used to, especially with the guitar, we're so used to thinking of harmony as like this sequential, like linear thing where we're just stacking thirds and putting notes on top of each other to get chords. But harmony is much more about just the reality of ratios of periodicity, ratios or relationships of oscillations, right? This is a 3-to-1 relationship. I could double this frequency and have a 3-to-2 relationship. That's a certain kind of sound, right? That's a certain, in tonal language, that's a certain kind of sound. That's that kind of sound. This is this happening really, really, really fast. Now 5/4, unfortunately, I cannot snap that for you, right? Or rather 1 to 5, right? 1 to 5, 2 to 5, 4 to 5, right? Okay? That's a different kind of feeling. That's a major third feeling. Right, there it is. That's not totally it, but we can talk about that later. E and G sharp, the quintupling nature, that's a different kind of sonic realm. So compare the tripling nature with the quintupling nature. since these tones exist in the harmonic series of E, they just feel at home, right? And that's a major triad. Notice E, G sharp, and B, that's a major triad. There's your triangle, right? And since they exist in the harmonic series of E, they're emerging out of that E, and that has a very specific quality, right? It has a feeling of cohesion that tones which do not exist in that series, that are not overtonally produced, do not have, right? Compare G sharp and B, G sharp and B, with A and C. Ooh, you alright? There's what my teacher taught me was that he called them overtonal dimensions, where you're multiplying, and reciprocal dimensions, where you're dividing, right? Or where the tonic is produced from another overtonal series, okay? The tonic here is being produced from another overtonal series. The tonic here is producing these overtones. Those different dimensions have different feelings significantly. And it's a very helpful and powerful thing to be able to identify that feeling. So as an introduction to these sort of the primary, the four cardinal directions of harmony, if you will, I would spend time improvising with just these four notes. And my teacher would say sing them. Sing them if you really want to internalize them. I would highly recommend that. Now dig it. I'm going to improvise just with those four notes for a minute, or five notes, excuse me. E, B, G sharp, A, and C. The third, or excuse me, the tripling, the quintupling, the dividing by 3, and the division by 5, or the fifth, the third, the fourth, and the flat 6, representing the four cardinal directions of harmony. What does that sound like? So each one of those notes has a very specific dimension of feeling that it produces. They're different dimensions. They're different prime number dimensions, or I guess the flipping of that prime number direction. Kind of like how a fifth is a fourth, right? C to G, right? C, D, E, F, G. If you flip it over, G to C, G, A, B, C. And it's kind of the same thing, and it's kind of not. Same thing. This is kind of the same thing as this, but it's kind of not. Not if the ear is hearing E as the tonal center. Now, this is going on for a while. Imagine branching from here. What's the fifth of G sharp? And what's the fifth of B? What's the major third of A? What's the fifth of C? And building out from that center, you'll start to see relationships. Harmonic distances, truer harmonic distances, not harmonic distances that are like, it's a seventh away, or it's a sixth away, but seeing it more in terms of it's a tripling of a tripling, or it's a tripling of a quintupling, right? Or it's we've quintupled and then divided by 3, or we've tripled and then divided by 5, and you get a more honest sense of where you are in space in terms of tonality, as opposed to, we're just on this is the 6th degree of the scale, which is helpful to think like that, but is definitely not the whole story. So anyway, I've been going on for a while. I would highly recommend, vamp on an E, right? And improvise with these four notes and see if you can get used to these directions of harmony, right? There's my root, my third, my fourth, my fifth, my flat 6. So I'm going to go north, going east, going south, going west, back north, and then I'll return home. Anyway, I'm going to develop, I would like to get better at teaching this, so if you found this helpful or useful in any way, please comment below. If you have any questions, please comment below. Thanks for listening. I know this was a bit long-winded, but these are important concepts. Harmony is not just about intervallic distances, root to the five scale steps away, 7 scale steps away. It's more real to think of these as just multiplications and divisions of prime numbers against the waveform. Taking the waveform and you're multiplying it by a certain number or dividing it by a certain number. Anyway, I hope this is helpful. Thanks for listening. Peace.